All right.
So welcome to my podcast or to my channel. This is Victoria with me. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself, about how you came into the plant-based, vegan, high-carb lifestyle? Just tell me a little bit about yourself.
All right. So I initially came to, well, I started experimenting with veganism when I was like 19 or 20, like pretty early, but back then it wasn't popular at all. And like high carb was, well, I didn't know about it. And so it was kind of like something where I'd eat, but I never eat enough. So I couldn't stick with it. And now that's like the biggest thing I tell people: if you want to stay vegan, you have to eat enough food. Um, but then I went like all in with high carb, low fat, plant based vegan after I watched a video of Freely back in 2012. And then I've been vegan ever since. Um,
Okay. How old
what's
are you? I'm sorry. How old are you?
33 at the end of this month. And I started this when I went all in when I was 24.
Okay. So this is a pretty long distance. So I would like to, but let me just ask you first, how come that you started experimenting with veganism? Was it for ethics? Was it for health? What was it at the beginning?
I think it was both actually, because I was really into yoga at the time, and the practice of ahimsa or nonviolence really registered with me, and I couldn't at that point rationalize continuing to eat animals when it didn't make sense with what I was discovering about life, I guess, at the time. And it was for health reasons too. I struggled a lot with my digestion, and um, I guess I was always kind of trying to keep my weight in check too, because I had been an athlete, but then I kind of retired from that and was still active, but had to, figure things out. And then I was actually just making a video before we were talking about how uh, people get trapped in like the whole you have to restrict your calories to lose weight. And I think it prevents a lot of people from achieving their like optimal potential in life. And I know that when I was younger, it definitely held me back. And I wish I knew what I know now and could go back in time and like tell myself like what was
Yeah,
up.
me as well. What sport did you do?
I played basketball.
Okay. So you're very tall. I saw on your Instagram profile. So, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I think the same. Like, oh, where was this lifestyle like 10 years ago when I was struggling with cramps in my legs and tiredness and all this stuff. So, yeah, well, everything happens for a reason. So, you experimented with that and stuff like this, and then you discovered freely. So, how did you just go all in the second? And did you like got scared? Did you get fat at the beginning? Tell me how was your process? I really want to know.
Yeah, so I did get fat.
How much?
I
Just tell me everything.
when I first saw this video of Freely, it was like I think she had recorded it in 2009, and Harley was like he had been recording it. He was like show everybody or tell everybody about how much you're eating and show them your body. And I was just like, how can she eat like it was at least like 3,500 to 4,000 calories of just like bananas and oranges. And I was like, how is she this small or this lean and she can eat that much food when I'm like sitting there and I was probably the skinniest I had ever been and I was not eating. And my boyfriend, who's my husband now, was like, I think you're anorexic. Like people were saying stuff to me and I'm like, I don't know. I think you can live off air. Like I was, in that like raw vegan stage. I had read like David Wolf's books and who else? It was a lot of the mucusless diet system, which is like all about fasting. So yeah, I was pretty like brainwashed into thinking that less is more. And then I saw her and I was like, wait a second, like I don't think I'm doing this right. And then that second I like went out and bought all these like bananas and watermelons and dates and foods that I hadn't like eaten a lot of in a really long time. And then the ballooning just started. Like I had adaptive thermogenesis, like they could have probably done a study on me and like published it, because my results were like that, like clear in terms of, you know, if you've read the Dr. Ansel Keys book, the
I did. I
Minnesota
did.
Experiment, like I could have probably been in that book. But I went from like 125 pounds to about 155 pounds in probably about a month to 2 months.
Wha-
Then I know you're probably thinking like
No, no.
kilograms.
This is no, no, no. This is so 30 pounds was the difference. So this is about 15 kilograms up. Yeah, something
Yes,
like this.
but I continued, so I gained total like 60 pounds, which was, yeah.
Wow, on dates and bananas, so 30 kilos. 30
Yes,
kilos
yes.
approximately. This is a really, really important thing because on my channel, even on my Slovenian channel, I'm trying to show people that, of course, initially you will gain when you were restricting before, but 30 kilos, this is even more than freely got. How long?
Well,
How long were you restricting yourself? How many years?
I think it had been something that I had been experiencing, like that I was actually doing to myself for about probably about 4 years prior. But then even prior to that, like as an athlete, I know that I had like had irregular periods, and I think that it was probably because I was underweight and I should have been eating more than I was. But it was one of those things where you can undereat and not know it, or you can be undereating and you can be making yourself undereat.
Yeah,
So
I totally get it. The same with me. The same with me.
yeah, I mean, and I had smoked cigarettes, used appetite suppressants. I had taken like those gym drugs that like make you, you know, it's like a,
Pre-workout.
yeah, pre-workout powders. I had done it all. Like I had done everything bad to my body other than doing like hard drugs. Like I've never done anything like that. But I was
Okay.
into marijuana, like I had done it all. And so when I committed to a healthy lifestyle, I kind of like compared it to like getting punched in the face, like, or getting beat up and you like swell up, you know? Like I had done
Okay.
so much damage, and I was finally getting what I needed, and my body just like that post starvation obesity. Yeah. And the funny thing is, like, even though I'm really tall, like I'm like an average size woman. So in US, I went from like a size
Mm.
2'4" to like a size 12. So,
Wow.
but
I'm
now going
getting
back,
the chills. I'm get-
yeah, it was pretty significant. My husband, or my boyfriend, who was my husband now, he said, I don't know if I could be with you if you keep like getting bigger. And so my grandma was like, wow, you got fat. And like, it was so like mentally so hard to get through. And I think that because I didn't have much of a support group. Freely had like some like free Facebook coaching groups at the time that I was a part of. But I was basically by myself, like in my real life, with people being like, what the hell happened to you, you know? And because everybody thinks like being really skinny is like the norm, it's healthy, it's what everybody wants. And it is, but it depends on how you get there. And I had done a lot of bad stuff. I gained the weight, and then I started getting impatient after a few years. Well, it wasn't even a few years. It was probably about a year and a half of gaining the weight. And what's interesting is that when I gained the weight, I was only eating raw fruits and vegetables. Like everybody's like, go raw vegan for weight loss, right? I was only eating raw fruits and vegetables, and I gained all of that weight. There was no added sugar, there was no salt, there was no starches. Like it was just fruits and vegetables. So I think it's interesting because everyone's like, go raw vegan for weight loss and everything. But if your body needs to gain weight, it will, regardless of what it is you're eating. But like Harley's always said, when you eat high carb, low fat, raw vegan, or not raw vegan, but vegan, it caps and eventually you plateau. So I had like hit my highest, which was probably about 185 to 190 pounds. And then it only stayed there for probably about, I'd say 6 months. And then my weight started coming back down. But, you know, it's still like on the higher end
So
for myself. Yeah, go ahead.
let me get this straight. So you start to eat like like crazy bananas, dates, fruits and vegetables, so all raw. So if I understood correctly, 1 year you were just gaining weight, or 1 year and a half. One
Absolutely.
year and
Yeah.
a
1 year. And then I kind of plateaued, but I plateaued at
okay,
my highest weight. So I stopped
okay.
gaining, but I was like heavier. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So first it was going up, up, up. Then after 1 year, it plateaued, and
Yes.
then after 6 months, did it go? Yeah. What was happening inside your head? I
So
want to
what
know.
was interesting is that like my body composition, it had started to change a little bit. Like I had gotten kind of like fat everywhere or plump, but I'd say most of it was probably water retention, the way that it came on so quick and then the way that it started to come off. Because if you think about like nobody can actually gain like that much fat like in a short period of time. I mean, like if you're talking about anorexics that go into eating disorder clinics and then they gain like 20 pounds in a month, like that's, if you do the math, it's kind of impossible. So most of that gain is actually like water weight, which is absolutely necessary to help with the healing process. That's where like the plumpness comes from. It's the same with like swelling when you get an injury. Um, but anyways, so this is when I started getting impatient, and I started, because I can't say that I've been all in this whole time. And I think it's really interesting because I consider myself an experimenter. Like I went and did a master's of science degree in human nutrition, and I kind of like did all the non-vegan diets prior to that. And then I started, after I gained all this weight, I was like, wait, should I like start doing something else? Like all these people are making comments. So I tried like McDougall's maximum weight loss approach, which is still really popular with this whole calorie density thing where people like fill half their plate with green vegetables in order to fill up without like as many calories. And I remember going back to like intermittent fasting and like trying different things like get the weight off, and like some weight would come off, but then it was not sustainable. And I think when you go through a healing process, because like I had an eating disorder and I had to gain the weight in order to recover from that. But I think because I wasn't like actually in a hospital, that people were like, oh yeah, she just got fat, you know? And I think that that's probably the hardest thing for anyone recovering from an eating disorder, or even like we're just recovering from standard dieting and coming to this lifestyle, to overcome, is like the mental like pressure, the mental programming.
I have a question. Were you, when you were in this process, were you already aware of the Ansel Keys study? Did you already read that, or did you read that afterwards?
I actually just heard of that about maybe 2 years ago, maybe a year ago. Yeah, at this point, like the whole concept of adaptive thermogenesis and metabolic damage was just a verbal conversation. It wasn't anything that I learned about in school. It wasn't anything that I was aware of. I was just like trusting the process. And I think that's why
Okay.
I got like impatient, as most people do, and they get, that's how people get trapped in like the yo-yo diet cycle, is they restrict their calories, then they can't do it anymore, so then they start eating and gain a bunch of weight, and then they get scared and like, oh my god, I'm going to be this size forever, and then start restricting again, and then it's that cycle. And I will be honest, like I've done that through the 8 years that I've been high carb vegan, but I can tell you though that every time that I try to like go back to doing something else, it's like harder to do, and I quickly bounce back onto being high carb low fat, plant-based vegan, unlimited calories. Like you can't deny once you've like went through the initial healing phase that's what is best for your body.
So how long is it now, for example, I saw on your Instagram profile, how long are you now like eating 4,000 calories or let's say something like this that you're eating now? How long is this?
That has been pretty consistent for at least since I've had my second child. Because it's kind of, people will say, oh, you're binge eating or you have an eating disorder because now look at how much you eat. And it's like, I have to eat that much for my breast milk production, just to be a good parent, to be active. And if I want to do more, I have to eat more. So now I'd say I'm probably averaging like 5,000 calories a day. And if I was eating that of like anything else than high carb, low fat, vegan foods, like I would be like obese.
So how much has it been since you've had your life child? How many children do you have?
I have two children. My oldest is 4 and my youngest is 2. So it's been 2 years since I've had a child.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in these 2 years, so probably now you've already like your metabolism is pretty high because I saw in your pictures you're pretty slim on 4,000 calories. So now probably your curve has flattened out and everything.
Absolutely. And the interesting part about that is that even like a few months ago, I was going on vacation and I thought, oh, I'll cut starch out of my diet for a little bit, experiment, whatever. And like I had what I'd call just like water weight loss from that, but like it was unsustainable. And I was even eating at least like 3,500 calories a day from fruits, but for me, it wasn't enough. And when I'm eating fruit, sugar, and starch in unlimited quantities, that's when I can feel my best, function my best, have the best mood, be the best parent, like experience increases in my fitness. As soon as I cut starch out, actually, like my fitness just like it went down a notch. And I should have like recognized that right away. But at the time I was I had been sick a lot over the winter time, and I was thinking that maybe it was something that I was eating, so maybe I'll eat more nutrient dense foods, and it was actually because I wasn't eating enough.
Enough,
And
yes.
absolutely. And I think like a lot of people will ask me, well, I'm eating high carb vegan and I'm not losing the weight and this is what I'm doing. And usually people are doing too much training and they're not eating enough. And they're like, why aren't I getting the results? Because everybody's still in that mindset of I have to have a calorie deficit when it's
I
the
know.
opposite.
I know. Actually, that's the one thing that I'm really focusing now on my channel because I realized, like, when I learned about Harley, the Rian rider, I when I went back, like, to see back what I was eating in my past, I was just like, oh my God, Spela, you were accidentally under eating because I was
Mm-hmm.
like similar like you. I think it was like 9 years ago. I started using the protein shakes, the meal replacement shakes, and stuff like this. And the funny thing is, prior to that, I never felt fat, never. I was playing soccer and my thighs were a bit stronger. Of course, I was a bit, I don't know how to say it to you. I was like jacked a bit, but with a bit fat because I was eating a lot of fat. But still, I never saw myself as a fat person. I just thought to myself when I went to the store to buy jeans, I just said to myself, "This is not normal. So narrow jeans." I was just said, never. But when I got in contact with that company that was selling those shakes, they just told me, "Okay, you have 23% body fat. You should have somewhere around 18." And I said, "Oh, okay, fine." And then they showed me all the results, the before and afters and stuff like this. And then they kind of lured me into it. And then I started. And of course, let's say I was calculating in my head that I was probably eating around 3,000 calories back then. I was training like 3 times per week. I had one match and I had a lot of study to do, so 3,000. And then because I switched two of my meals with a shake, and because I had like a big salad always with my lunch, I basically went from 3,000 calories to 2,000 calories, and I lost, from 3,000 to 2,000. And the point was, like you said, because I was getting so much less energy, I had to use their teas with extracts of green tea, black tea. I was drinking a liter of black tea per day, a liter. Yeah,
Kidding.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so imagine I think that in 2 months, I lost 5 kilos, but I think that a lot of this was water because I was peeing nonstop because, it's diuretic. So basically, I realized that I lowered my calories, but, at that time, I started eating, yeah, you just go. Um, it's fine, it's fine. At that time, I started eating a plant-based diet also with that because luckily somebody from that company was also promoting, beside those shakes, was also promoting a plant-based lifestyle. So this was something good from it, right? But the problem was I had now 2,000 calories and my body has adjusted in a way. And then later, when I just, I got broke from buying all this crap, from all the
Yes.
shakes and all the tablets and all the supplements. And then something just didn't click with me. So after I was using that for 6 years, and after that, I just kind of, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. A lot of money down the drain. But let's continue.
You
So,
know what's so interesting is that people are so willing to buy like protein powder because they think it's going to make them lose weight, but they lose their minds when you're like adding sugar to your smoothies because they're like, oh my god, that's gonna make you fat. But like nobody thinks twice about protein powder. It's such like a brainwashing, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, total brainwashing. And then I realized, when I stopped all that, I also stopped all the stimulants. And then I found out about the starch solution. And then I started, like, I went all in with a plant-based diet, and I also added like maple syrup. I was eating a lot of starches, a lot of breads and everything. And naturally, my body wanted to rebound because let's say I was eating, I don't know, if I was eating 2,000 before, then I was eating 2,400 or 2,500. And in 1 month, or I don't know, maybe it was in 3 weeks, I got, I don't know, I felt that I gained a bit of weight. And then I went on the scales and I said, oh my God, I got 2 kilos, something, I must be doing something wrong, typical.
Uh,
And you know what I did next? And then I said, okay, maybe I'm eating too much bread. Maybe I shouldn't be adding this maple syrup. And then I saw the calorie density approach. And then I went on the calorie density plus intermittent fasting. So I was eating 3 meals a day of high carb, but still not so calorie dense foods, like a lot of potatoes, a lot of a lot of apples and all the other fruits, not so much
yeah.
bananas. Yeah, so I went from 2,000 to 1,800 and then I lost all that weight. Yeah, horrible, horrible. I lost all that weight and I was really fit, like fit looking, But the problem was that I wasn't I started to lose my interest for sex, my interest for activity. I couldn't even run 1 mile, but I looked really fit. Everybody, if you look at me, no fat, just muscles, but no stamina whatsoever. And then from then on, then it was only then when I discovered the raw food. But I didn't want to lose weight. I was quite happy with my weight, but I wasn't happy with my energy. So I thought there was something probably wrong with me. So I need to heal. And then I went on fruit, and when I went on fruit, like my fitness just it went down hard, you know, and I
Yeah.
was so hungry, so hungry. I would just eat and eat and eat, and I was never satisfied because starches satisfied me, but fruits didn't, you know. So, and I lost all my muscle. I can also see on my pictures. I will post a video with all my pictures, but I lost all my muscles. Like I was without any shape, just bones and just soft tissue, nothing else. So
Hmm.
then later, so this was like my bottom was just eating fruits, you know. But then I in January 2020 now, I said to myself, I can't do this anymore. I want to be fit again. I want to be athletic. I want to compete. I was missing that, you know, and I was searching for some answers, and somehow I found Durian Rider, and I was like, damn, I was under eating myself. And now I started eating in March, at the beginning of March 2020. I started to eat. I gained now 6 kilos. Um, but I threw my scales away. But I just went to weigh myself for the chronology, you know. Um, and it's so funny how like I got all this weight up, but I feel much better. I'm more myself. My sex drive has improved. For the first time in my life, I did 150 kilometers ride with my bike and a lot
Uh,
of hills. Never in my life prior to that, never. And for the first time in my life, I have warm feet when I go to bed. Because before, in all my life, very cold feet all the time, like ice frozen, you know. So
yeah.
basically what I'm trying to say, I'm gaining this weight, but I'm feeling better. And the funny thing is, I know, I mean, I have some belly, but when I look at myself, I don't feel fat. I think I felt more fat before when I was on fruit and when I was unsatisfied, you know, when I was hungry and stuff like that. I think I felt more fat than I feel now when I have like 6 kilos more or even more. You know, because before on fruit, my weight just felt a little bit for 2 kilos. So like I have 8 kilos now more, but I feel much better and much sexier than before. Did you experience similar stuff as well?
Yeah, yeah. So actually, when I first gained all the weight, I hadn't had like a regular period for a long time. Like I
Oh,
think I
really?
was really underweight, and then I gained a bunch of weight initially. And my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, we started having more sex, and he's like, "I'm just more like attracted to you, even though I didn't feel attractive because I had like gained weight, you know."
Yeah, I know.
But my sex drive was improving, like my periods had came back, so I was like more alive. And I think that it's such a misconception that, you know, skinny always equals healthy, because like you're saying, when you're really thin, just eating fruit, like you didn't feel good, and now that you've gained weight and you're eating all that you want, like you feel really good, and I think you look good. Like there's just like a sex appeal. Even like Get Fit with Natasha, right? She has like this gorgeous body and like these full breasts, and like she's like the epitome of like a sexy woman who's taking care of her body. And I think that, you know, when you're going to have more like curves, but you're also going to be or get lean too, like in the process. And your body just finds like a really healthy balance with everything, depending on what your genetics are. Like that's what you'll get, is just like optimized genetic potential on this lifestyle. Not everybody's going to look exactly the same, but we all will feel amazing and perform wonderfully in life and get the body that is our like most desirable for us.